This is going to be a pretty fast project where I just show you guys how to create the basic layout for a portfolio web page, which is just basically going to be somewhere where you can put like your name, a little bit about you, and add in a few of these projects that you've been working on with some descriptions about them. We're going to start by creating a new folder for our project. So in your Visual Studio's code, you can go up to File and say New File. And then we can go ahead and immediately save this file, Control S. And then you'll want to put this next to all of your other projects wherever they are. For me, that's in Google Drive and in my tutorial code and code projects. And then I'm going to right click here, and you want to create a new folder for this project. And this project is going to be called the Portfolio Project. And then you want to name this file index.html, just like always. Now that we have our index file saved, the next thing we want to do is lay out a basic HTML web page. To do that, like always, we're going to start with the basic HTML tag. So everything in between the opening HTML tag here and the closing one is part of our web page. We also need the head for metadata about the page. And inside the head, we'll put the title of the web page. And the title of this one is your portfolio. So I'm going to say Keller's Portfolio. And now we're going to also create the body. And inside the body is where our actual page is going to go. So if you look here, I've got a little image here to show me sort of what I'm going to be working through. I'm going to start out by creating headings for the name and then a paragraph for About Me. Underneath that, we're going to have another heading for projects. And then we're going to create a bunch of projects, and each project is going to be its own little box. And inside the box, we're going to have a heading for the name, an image for the project, like what the project looks like, and then a description underneath that image. So we're going to go ahead and start laying that out. So the first thing I want is to have a name. So I'll say H1 and we'll put in the name, and my name is Keller Flint. Let's also go ahead and test this so that I'm not just working blind. You always want to make sure that you're testing your code frequently. Otherwise, you're going to break something really early on and have never tested it. So remember to open your project, you can go click on the File Explorer and find your project. And then when you find it, you're going to go ahead and click on the index file. And it'll open in Google Chrome, and that opened in another window for me. There we go. And then after that heading, I'm going to add another subheading, a smaller heading, so maybe an H2, and call it About. And then under that About, I am going to put a paragraph of text about myself. The next thing we need to do is after the About section of our portfolio page, we are going to have our projects. And so I'm going to create another H2, and this one's going to be called Projects. The next thing I need to do is introduce you guys to a new tag called a div. And a div is a tag that we use to group other elements on the web page. So sort of just like how all of our information is contained in the body, we can create a div, and inside the div we can put other tags of our web page. On our web page, it's going to look something like this. We have our projects section, and then in our project section, we're going to have all of these different boxes that have all the information about our projects. So each of our projects will have a title or a name. They'll have an image, and then they'll also have a description about the project underneath them. Now, all of these different elements, this H1 element for the title, the image element, and the P element, that's the description, all of those are going to be contained within another element called a div. And the div is sort of, you can think of it almost as this box around all of these elements. And we're going to use the div to do things like style this border around the edge and make everything a very certain like height and width so that all of our projects don't end up being like, we don't want one project to be like this big, right? And then another one to be like this big, and then another one to be like this long. We're going to put all of these elements for each project inside a div, and then we're going to style all of our divs to look the same way so that they're all the same height and the same width for each project. So in the code, a div is just another tag with the word div. And inside the div, we're going to put all of the elements. In between the opening div here and the closing div here, we're going to put all of the elements that we want to be inside of it. And for us, that's an H3, I think, for the project name. So for now, we'll just say project name, and we'll replace this a little bit later. And then underneath that, we're going to have an image with a source and an alt. And the alt will be project image. And then underneath that, we'll also have a paragraph tag. And the paragraph tag will have our description of the project. If I refresh my page, you see the div itself doesn't show up, but all the elements show up. And all of these elements are inside of this div object, which I can now style however I want. Let's go ahead now that we've laid out this basic template and make this an actual project. So go ahead and find one of your previous projects. So for me, I'm going to use, let's see what I have here. For me, I'm going to use the adventure game. So I'm going to go ahead and open my adventure game. And I'm just going to take a screenshot of this game. So if you're on Windows, you usually can find a program called Snipping Tool. And if you open that program, you can create a new snip. And then you just want to like get a good image of your game. So something like this would be pretty good. And let go, and it'll open up this new tab. And you want to save that wherever your project is. So in your place with the project code, go into your portfolio, and you can save this as something like adventure.png. Now we can close this. Now that we have that image saved in the same location, you should be able to open your File Explorer and find it right there. So in my project code, in my portfolio project, there we have adventure.png. So now I should be able to say in src adventure.png. And if I reload the page now, you'll see my adventure image shows up here. And we'll change the name of this to the adventure game, or whatever else you want. And we'll give it a quick description. There we go. Now if I reload my page, we have the name of the game, we have the actual game itself, the image here, and we also have a little description of the game. Now obviously this doesn't look complete at all. This is just the very start. This is adding the HTML to structure our web page. In the next video, we're going to use CSS to edit the style of our page. We're going to center a lot of our content. We're going to make these all a lot smaller, and they're going to all fit into little boxes that'll all line up next to each other. And it'll look a lot nicer and a lot cleaner. So I'll see you guys in that video.